Usually I come out here at the end of this meeting and announce the final number of commitments, but because so many of you finalized them before we met, you know we have about, now since we started, 1,950 plus commitments involving thousands and thousands of you, now valued at $63 billion, impacting just under 300 million lives in well over 170 countries. Thank you all very much. I'm grateful. But this is interesting. While more than 1,000 of you have been here with us, more than 46,000 people followed our meeting through the webcast in more than 150 nations. And we'll hear a lot about them because they were even following our workout sessions, and more than 500,000 people saw our video content on YouTube. More than 700 members of the press came here to tell people what we're doing. We had more than 250 blog posts that reached millions of people. 900,000 people interacted with us on Facebook. People inside and outside the meeting connected with each other, sharing their thoughts, submitting questions to panelists. In all, there were about 200 tweets an hour, more than twice last year's rate. People are catching on to and tuning in to what's going on here. I never know how exactly people will be inspired, but sooner or later we'll find out in ways we don't know. I tell everybody that the reason I think people like this is that there's a minimum amount of posturing and a maximum amount of seeking. There is a minimum amount of talking in relationship to the commitment to doing. With more than 50,000 homes turned in to watch the webcast, when did they do that? You heard Bill Gates up here. Can you imagine 40 years ago, a guy worth as much money as him giving it away and wasting an afternoon with all of us talking about the minutiae of education, healthcare policy, polio funding? What is going on here? What are we doing? Why have 40 billionaires from the United States to China signed on to Bill Gates and Warren Buffett's giving campaign? In the middle of the worst recession in America since the Depression, why did more than half of the American people contribute to Haiti earthquake relief? Why do people keep signing up for NGOs and for partnerships? Why in the world does Procter & Gamble think it's so important to their corporate branding to have a commitment to save a life every hour from now on? What is going on here? I don't think it's just about CGI. All I try to do is to give you all a network, a framework, an environment to bring your ideas and find your friends and find your neighbors and tap into the possibilities of the modern world. The thing I've been most worried about in this economic recession and social and psychological crisis for my country is that we would lose our confidence in ourselves and in our shared future. That in all of our anger, all of our frustration, all of our heartbreak, all of our disappointment with ourselves and others, we would just lose our mojo about what was possible. And I worry about it happening other places. And I think people come here to be reminded about what's good about their own lives, what's good about their own ideas, what's strong about their own hearts, their own abilities, what's meaningful about what they have accomplished in their lives so far and what they might yet do before the sand runs out of the hourglass. I think people come here and they see, yeah, there's a negative interdependence in the world out there. You see it every time a roadside bomb blows up and kills innocent civilians. You see it every time people turn a blind eye to those miserable settlements in the Congo, and you see it every time the horrors of Darfur are revisited, and 1,000 other things on every continent on earth. But it is astonishing how many people from all walks of life, with all levels of resources, still think about their neighbors and understand that the central issue of the 21st century is our interdependence. Understand that the positive forces are at least as strong as the negative ones, and that every one of us who has any energy, any ability, and half a brain has a responsibility to the next generation to see that the positive outweigh the negative forces. Yes, there's plenty of room for philosophical and other political debates, but every one of us are here in part because whatever our politics, we think the most important thing is whether what we're doing is going to work or not. Believe me, when we go back to work on Haiti next week, we can have all the philosophical discussions in the world. But sooner or later, people will be living in good housing or they won't. There will be sewer systems and power systems for the first time, and universal education systems and health care for everybody, or there won't. We live in a world where we keep score the old-fashioned way. We just want to keep score for other people as well as for ourselves. I don't know about you, but I think it's a good thing. A lot of you told me how much that story of the artist I told in the Haiti meeting who came out so soon after losing his wife and children to demonstrate his art on the street to give courage to his fellow artists meant to you. Sometimes I wonder if we're all fools to be optimists. The economics for every other utility executive in America are no different than they are for Mr. Rogers here. He chooses to put solar panels on the roof and rent the power. Everybody else could, most don't. Easy to look at the negative. And Andrew Liveris and I were talking, he says that the whole world is contained in the periodic table. If we just knew enough about chemistry, we would know what our possibilities and limits are. So I said to him, I reminded him that after Albert Einstein discovered the general and special theories of relativity, he spent the whole rest of his life in what ultimately proved to be a frustrating search for a unified theory of matter, drawing together everything anybody knew about physics. Now we keep finding the intersections of physics and chemistry and biology. So the most interesting scientific discovery that I've seen myself in the last several months that offers the intersection of biology, chemistry, and physics, and maybe an explanation of how we all got here and why we're still dumb enough to be optimistic, is this. Physics could never incorporate the learnings of biology, and especially the theory of evolution or how the Big Bang ever led to life, because in theory, atoms and matter are held together instead of exploding apart, because the positive and negative elements, subatomic elements, are supposed to be in balance. So now, we have all these super colliders around the world that allow us to get to the heart of subatomic particles and analyze them. And a few months ago, somebody who sent some rifling through told us this, that in traditional theory, they had always thought the subatomic, below the protons, electrons, and neutrons, the muons would have to be in equal balance for the matter to hold together. That was traditional theory. But it turned out, wonder of wonders, the positive ones were slightly more numerous within each atom than the negative ones. and it might explain how life began. I want you to think about when you leave here. You don't have to think life is perfect, and you know darn well you aren't, and neither am I. All you got to remember is this is all worthwhile because we can't escape each other, and whatever's wrong with us, the positive elements are slightly more numerous than the negative ones. God bless you all. I'll see you tonight.